was the tip-off of a lifetime. $30 million in untraceable cash hidden in a tiny, defenseless California bank. The tipster, one of the most notorious mobsters in history.
The tipster was Jimmy Hoffa.
The alleged target, the most powerful man in the free world.
Well, I'm not a crook.
We knew it was Nixon's money.
The crew, the best bank burglars this country has ever seen.
They were sitting ducks. We called them gifts.
This bank burglary was the most amazing burglary ever.
Hunted by the largest task force assembled since the Kennedy assassination.
It makes you wonder, could the White House have had some type of leverage?
For the first time on national television, the real mastermind who planned it.
I thought it was a clean job.
And the cops who led the nationwide manhunt.
We're talking about one of the most investigated cases in the history of the FBI.
Come together to tell their own stories as we follow the money and dissect a near-perfect crime plagued by a simple yet fatal flaw.
They made one gigantic mistake.
That was my biggest mistake. I shouldn't have did it.
And that's what changed everything.
This is Super Heists.
Okay, are we speeding on sound too?
Sound speed.
Go again?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Sorry.
All I can say to the FBI is, in our case, they framed us. It's not that I'm an angel. I did things, but they didn't do things in the right way. That's what teased me off.
Did the FBI frame Emil Dinzio?
Normally, if I was testifying, I'd say not that I recall, but absolutely not. Emil Alfred Dinzio was not framed by the FBI, ever.
It's Monday morning at the United California Bank in the small town of Laguna Niguel, California.
Bank manager walks in, just doing the typical Monday activities.
An essential step upon opening for the day is unlocking the bank's main vault.
He's just looking to go about his day and dial the combinations, turn the handle, the vault is open.
It won't budge. It was stuck. So they brought out an expert who had trouble opening the door. When he couldn't get into the vault through the door, he went to the roof to see if the alarm was working, and that's when he noticed the roof has been breached.
Someone has somehow blasted a hole through the concrete ceiling of the vault without alerting anyone.
The rebar is broken, dust everywhere, safe deposit boxes broken open, money, valuables. Someone had busted up the place like a rock star in a hotel room.
So you start wondering, like, how could something like this happen?
The answer to that question lies 2,000 miles east of balmy Laguna Niguel, in the hardscrabble city of Youngstown, Ohio. Home to one of the most notorious bank burglars this country has ever seen.
What was your relationship with money like?
I loved it. I liked money. Everybody likes money, I guess. If you don't have it, you're in trouble.
Emil Dinzio was legendary, still is legendary, and he perfected the art of bank burglary in a way that nobody else has.
Emil Dinzio had the best bank burglary team in the world.
The best? I would say the best. For what we were doing, we were. We went after a bank, we got it.
Growing up with nothing, a young Emil Dinzio was determined to climb out of poverty any way he could.
We never had money. We had kerosene lamps in our house. We didn't have electric. We were poor as poor can get.
Smart and fearless, Emil earns a rep in Youngstown's criminal underworld as an expert bank burglar.
Youngstown in that time, you know, the mob had it. And that's how I met a lot of people.
One afternoon in 1972, Dinzio gets a hot tip about a bank in California through his underworld connections.
The tipster was Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamsters president who had connections anywhere there was a union.
An associate of Hoffa's with ties to the Cleveland mob presents Dinzio with the score of a lifetime.
There's $30 million hidden in a safe deposit box in this sleepy little town in Southern California called Laguna Niguel.
When he says 30 million bucks, ears perk up on that. That would be a score of a lifetime.
But why would a tiny bank that seldom has more than $100,000 in cash on hand have $30 million stashed in a safe deposit box? According to Dinzio, the answer lives just 15 miles south in San Clemente, California, then home to the Western White House.
This money, it belonged to the President of the United States, Richard Nixon.
Well, the way I understand it was Nixon's money. Where he got it, who he got it from, I don't know.
In the beginning of 1972, Nixon was in the middle of a costly presidential campaign, and there was supposedly a huge amount of dirty money earmarked for his run.
It's allegedly President Nixon's slush fund.
Stories about Tricky Dick and taking all kind of money.
Nixon would meet with donors, and Nixon would say, if you can give me $1 million, you can give me $2 million. Nixon would take their extorted campaign contributions and he would hide it somewhere. And one of those places was in Laguna Niguel, California.
Alleged to be one of Nixon's biggest donors is Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa, and Hoffa has a bone to pick with Mr. Nixon.
Jimmy Hoffa goes to jail because he's a mobster. He wants a pardon from Richard Nixon. In exchange for that pardon, he's going to get the Teamsters to endorse Richard Nixon.
And they told me he paid $3 million to get his sentence commuted. Nixon commuted it.
But Nixon makes it impossible for Hoffa to be the president of the Teamsters ever again. So Hoffa, because he was pissed off at Nixon, he wanted his $3 million contribution back. And where was that $3 million? In a little bank in Southern California. From Dinzio's point of view, he's stealing money that the president stole from somebody else. It's not a crime.
Yeah, if you take Nixon's money, who's you going to cry to? He can't cry to nobody. Hey, they stole my money. They stole my money. He ain't going to say that. You know that, and I know that.
With an eye on the biggest bank heist in American history, Dinzio assembles his core team, starting with his trusted brother, James. Rounding out the crew are a couple of Dinzio's closest relatives, his nephew, Harry Barber, and his brother-in-law, Chuck Mulligan.
So we had a four-man team, you might say.
But to pull off the Nixon job, Dinzio will require the services of a friend from Cleveland named Phil Christopher.
Emil and James, they told me about the score in California.
I liked Phil. I always thought he was a pretty good guy.
Emil and James, I felt the vibes, they were just like me, and they seemed very smart.
Accompanying Phil is an accomplished thief with a volatile track record named Charlie Brockle.
Charlie Brockles was a good friend of mine. He was a firecracker, but I always kept him under control.
With his team assembled and the job details outlined, Dinzio breaks down the score, but he doesn't let the outsiders in on the secret.
I never told him about Nixon's money. Sure, let him make maybe $50,000, $100,000, whatever they're going to get. The only big money was Mr. Nixon's money.
Only Emil, James, and his brother-in-law, Chuck, know the real value of the heist. And after paying off Jimmy Hoffa and accounting for laundering expenses, the three of them stand to see the biggest take when all is said and done. $8 million apiece. Even if the score dwarfs anything they've done before, the job itself is business as usual for the best bank burglary team in the country.
Everything was kind of routine, what we did. We knew what we needed to do the job.
Years of experience had taught this crew the exact toolkit needed for the job.
They needed torches, they needed wiring, they needed explosives.
And you need a way to get them to California.
I made good arrangements for that through a friend.